All right, here we are at Karnak Temple, which is, to be honest, a huge, sprawling, messy, chaotic kind of place, but it's absolutely amazing, and it's the heart of religion in Egypt. So we're going to take a walk through it. I'm going to tell you that it is massive, and we're not going to take you through the whole thing, but we're going to start here at our entrance, and I'm not actually going to start at the entrance. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to talk about this little spot over here. This used to be a big ditch, almost like a moat or a lake. It would have two functions to it. The first one would be to purify yourself before entering, and the second one would be to have the ceremonial bark, the boat that would be able to make its way through here. So we've just crossed the bridge. We've purified ourselves, this time with sand, and we are on our way. We're going to walk past our stela here. I'm also not going to lie, there is so much in here that I honestly can't give you all of the commentary for each and every piece because there's just way too much and I've forgotten half of it. But we'll do what we can and we'll walk you through and we'll show you some of the really, really cool stuff. And aside from a French couple and this couple here, it's just us in here. So it's going to be a nice quiet morning. And the other good thing, I don't know if you can tell, but the sun's going to rise right through that little piece and it's going to just come through. It should be streaming. But first we're going to enter in through here. Now these are sphinxes, but instead of having the head of a man, they have the head of a ram. This was the ceremonial animal for Amun, which was the sun god. So under the sun god's rule and dedicated to the temple of Amun, the major god, the most important god of the place, we would be entering in to our first pylon. Now this is a pylon here. It's partially destroyed. These things would normally be connected in the middle, and they would have a very interesting thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but the pylons, they have a nice tall piece up there, and then it comes down to bridge across the gateway, and then it would come all the way back up like that. So this was not just to make it nice and easy and reduce the weight above your gateway so it doesn't collapse, although I'm sure that was nice. It was actually a representation of the Nile. You would have your east bank and your west bank, and this would be the Nile itself, or at least the symbol of the Nile itself. So we're going to go for a walk. Like I said, it's pretty long, so I'll tell you some stories as we go through. Now, Karnak is the heart of Thebes, which was the ancient capital of Egypt. In fact, it was simply called Egypt. You didn't go to Thebes, you went to Egypt. And when you left Thebes, you left Egypt. And this is a huge piece where it started off as one of the biggest temples to the biggest god. And then every pharaoh, every king, every ruler would add to it. So the expectation was they would add something in. Here we are at the Great Forecourt. I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to do this just so you can take a look at the writing. If you want to pause and give it a read. Okay. All right. Now, this was the triple temple of Seti II. And he built this to the three gods, to Amun and Mut and Khonshu. And we can see the inscription still. We can see all the hieroglyphs up on the walls. And we're just going to go into this one. We're just going to take a quick look. The condition of this place isn't as good as some of the other ones because it has been through incredible amounts of use. However, it is still something amazing. And the carvings and the details on the carvings. Let's just take a quick look at the front of our ceremonial bark, the ceremonial boat, and the Amun Ra ram head on top. Look at the detail on that thing. It's astounding. So here it is. The ceremonial boat, we would have one right here. You can see the ram's heads on either side, front and back. And we're missing the actual figure of the god in there. Along the back here, we would see these 3 little niches, and those would be for the statues themselves. Just a quick thing, we'll take a look up above at the wings. I'm going to assume that that's a sun disk and a pair of protective wings in between. If we look even up above, up near the top, up near the roof, there's that little bit of blue still left. There are traces of color all throughout this temple. They're just harder to find than they are in many of the other ones because this is so big and it has been exposed to the elements for so long. So here they would have had the 3 shrines. Out here we see these 2 big blocks. And these blocks would have been kind of like altar stones, but they would have been the place where you would fit the bark itself, the boat. Maybe I should just use boat. And along this place in the outer forecourt, you would probably have found offering tables, because these were also made. A lot of times you'll see these square blocks, and they would be made so that people could place their offerings on top, or they would, if it was a sacrificial animal, they would sacrifice it there and go on from there. I do want to point out this big pile of dirt, because this pile of dirt is actually really important. This first pylon, this outer pylon, was not quite completed. And this part here tells us all sorts about what they were doing. What they would have done in order to build this high, and I'm going to say 25, 30 meters high. In order to build that high, what they would have done is they would have used these mud bricks, and they would have built a ramp that would have gone all the way up to whatever level they were at, and then all the way down. And then they could roll or move the blocks upwards in whatever fashion they used. And they would build it up, build it up, build it up. And then once they had finished the pylon, they would have torn all this down and carried it away. Right? The fact that it isn't quite finished, look at our crazy corner right there, tells us that this is still a work in progress. And it gives us some insight into how it works. Now I'm going to come on over here because I want to show you some more of these sphinxes. These again are the ones with the ram's heads, but they have a little piece. It's a lot easier to see on these ones than it is on the others. And this is a good representation of the concept that there are little figures underneath each one. You take a look at these little figures, these little people, and depending on the time period, the figures would be different because they would be representative of the various kings. And as they added sphinxes, they would add figures of themselves underneath. So if you see if there's any variations or slight differences in between them, what you're looking at is the fact that they're different people. But these would have lined up all the way along. Amun, the creator, the main god, the creator god, with his kings in behind. Okay, I'm going to pause just for a second so I can get over there and not have to walk quite so much. And I want to check something out. I'll be back. All right, I am back. We're going to keep on going, and there was a little fox over there that I just kind of chased for a while and wanted to check out, see if I could get a picture of, but it didn't work. Okay, this is so exciting, and it looks like just a weird little triangular hole in the wall, but it is so much more. During the... No, it might have been the 1905 earthquake, or it may have been another one. There was an earthquake that happened, and when the earthquake happened, it opened up a hole in these walls. These are the big temple walls between the pylons. And the cool thing about this one was they opened the wall, and so they went in and checked it out. And you're not going to see much from there, although you can still see the differences in the stone. But inside there, is another hidden passage. I'm not going to crawl in. I'm just going to go like that to show you that there's a hidden passage back there. And in there, they found stones from a different tomb, or from a different temple. And they realized that someone had taken apart a temple and then taken all the stones and used them as fill, or they had actually blocked up and walled in one of the temples. And there are very few reasons why you would want to wall in a temple, except if you wanted to erase somebody. And these were the temples that Akhenaten had made to the Aten god. Hey, my little fox is back. You can see him just at the base of that statue there, right by the scaffolding. I think he's chasing after pigeons. I don't know if he's a fox or a dog, but he's funky. All right. So, yeah, Akhenaten was the sort of the rebel king, the guy who decided he was going to make the very first ever monotheistic religion and worship just one god, the sun god. And when he was done, when he was over, when his reign was finished, they basically kicked him out, destroyed everything he did, tried to erase his name from everything, took his son, forced him to change his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, Amun being the old sun god. And that's where we get Tutankhamun from. Anyways, this next part is just so cool. And I love the way this looks, and all the staff is hanging around. We're going to see if we can avoid the sounds. Hopefully you can still hear me really well. But this is our hypostyle hall. This was the place where all of the, well, this used to have a massive roof on it and these giant pillars. I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to stop there so that you can pause and read. If I can pause it well enough. There we go. And this was done by a couple of different pharaohs. Seti the First, of course, was our beginner, but then it was added on to afterwards. But this is just so amazing. We're going to go back to depictions of our ceremonial bark and its journey, bringing the gods across the underworld or across the sky, bringing the pharaohs down through the underworld. But this is sort of, if you think of a movie where you're in Egypt, and I don't know if this is going to pick up the color. There's this beautiful color along the top of these columns. Right down at the bottom, it's pretty blasé, but up there, the colors really begin to pop. Right? But there we are, here into our Hall of Columns. And just walking through this and having a new image and a new look every time. It's just beautiful, and especially with the sun just rising, just coming up and touching the land of the Nile. I have no destination in mind. I'm just looking through. I just want you to get a feel for it. Look at that. Look at that. That probably doesn't do it any justice when it's sitting here on video, but this is just amazing. I'm going to pop up there just so we can see the colors. You even notice up along the roof, you can see all the hieroglyphs up there painted, bright whitewash background, and then the reds and the yellows and the blues. What an amazing spot. Over there. There's an exit that we're not going to go down because this is not going to be a tour of the entire place. I just want you to get a feel for this because this is wonderful. And I have no set spot in mind. I can't remember any of the set details along the columns that I really want to point out to you. I just know that this is very, very cool and that it's well worth a walk. are back into one of our people, and I can't tell who that is. That almost looks like a random person, but would obviously be someone of importance, because you've got Horus on the one side, you've got the Pharaoh on the other, you've got this person in the middle. They're holding hands, they're connected, so obviously there is a transferal of authority and power there. But yeah, this is just amazing. All right, I'm going to stop wandering around. I'm going to take you back on our tour, and then we'll get going. And our French couple is here. Okay. I think I'm interrupting their picture perfect piece of there. From there, we're going to go here. We've got two pieces. This is the third pylon of Amenhotep III, which is sort of a big one, and the courtyard of the fourth pylon. Our third pylon, our fourth pylon. Now, as you can tell, the pylons have pretty well disappeared. This kind of chunk of rock over here and this piece of rubble over there, that's what's left of the pylons. But it's these I want to bring your attention to. These things right here, these are our obelisks. And this one over here, let's just keep on walking. And we're going to take a look. Oh, there we go. Okay, just going to take a quick look at this sign that we've got our Avenue of the Sphinxes off to our right, along with Temple of Opet Hashu. Right, our Middle Kingdom Court, Achmenu, over here. But this is the one I want to point out. This is the obelisk of Hatshepsut. Let's see if they say it here. Fourth and fifth. There we go. Okay. This is the obelisk of Hatshepsut. This is the sort of big one. Now this was created by Hatshepsut as a dedication to the sun god. And you'll see him depicted all over the place. And if we were able to go to the very top, during its high time versus when it was in its prime during her reign, there would be this electrum? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called electrum cap that would just radiate this. It's a mix of gold and silver, and it just beams out for miles. So this would have been sort of like a skyline, a piece that you would use as a beacon to figure out whether you're going there, the same way that McDonald's puts their arches so high up so that everyone can see them and find the nearest McDonald's. This was showing you where the nearest temple was. And it was amazing. It was beautiful. And when she was done and her son started erasing her name from everything, he got to this obelisk and he couldn't, because it wasn't hers. It belonged to the sun god. Right? So there is no way he was going to destroy it, because that would be sacrilege. It's a sacred item. So what did he do? He built a wall around it. He made this big tall wall that went back all the way around so that no one could see it, but it wasn't destroyed. Now I wonder if this little window was still there, just as yeah, there was something in there. Don't worry about it. Have a good day. But that's one of our obelisks of Hatshepsut. Oh, that looks fun. From there, we're going to go this way. I'm going to hop on over here and continue on through what used to be another hypostyle hall. You can see the bases for the pillars here. And even now, look how massive these pillars are. They are gigantic, and you can see the statues. Right? Statues used to line either way. This would have been, what was it, Tutmos? I think this was Tutmos's. But yeah, one other thing I do want to point out is the patterns. Like this was typical sort of, it's not papyrus. This would have been lotus pattern. That they're made to look like leaves. A lot of the pillars were made to look like leaves. They were made to look like bundles of reeds and rushes because that was what they lived in. People's homes, people's castles, people's palaces, all these things, they were all made with woven materials, but woven didn't last. Stone was forever. Stone was eternal. And so if you wanted to build something important, you built it in stone. But then you patterned it after what you lived in, which I find kind of intriguing. Right? Again, we can take a look at here at the procession of the gods and the offerings to the gods by the pharaohs. One thing I do want to check out, just take a look at those. Like take, for example, the bumblebee there. Look how deep it is. Right? Look how deep this process is. They have been dug right in there. And I'm not sure, sometimes things get dug in because it's important and we want to make sure that no one is able to sort of scrape it over or make it disappear. And sometimes what we can find is cartouches that are like the cartouche right there, which is extra deep because what they did is they took the person's cartouche, they chiseled it out, and then they chiseled in their own name afterwards, just to, rename the place after themselves. So if we dig the cartouche 3 times as deep, it will take them extra long to undo it. A couple of things here. This is the top part of the second obelisk of Hatshepsut. This is just the tip. And the base is in pieces, but this piece right here, there it is. Right? And again, it was covered over, it was walled in, and then when the walls fell, we ended up with this. The other thing we want to bring you to, 2 things actually. First off, over here is our sacred lake. And it's just a body of water at the moment, but it's a man-made lake, and it's a man-made lake that the priests used to use to purify themselves during the process. Let's see if I can get in here, and I'm hoping that the rising sun isn't absolutely wiping out your ability to see and read things. But let's take it right there. We're going to pause it just for a second, just so you can give it a bit of a read. Okay. Right. Already there by the time Hatshepsut comes. But this was from the 25th dynasty, which is basically our Greco-Roman period. Okay. That being said, just a quick reminder, this place was around since at least the 16th dynasty and went onwards all the way into the 25th, 30th dynasties. Alexander the Great himself has a temple in here. Now this guy here, this is the scarab. And a scarab is a piece of protection. It's a figure that would be in a lot of different motifs as a protection, as a process. Now the rumor, the story is, the belief is that if you were to come around this and walk around this 7 times clockwise, whatever you wish would be granted. So people would do this, and we do that very, very similar in places of pilgrimage where people will walk around or walk up an aisle and go up a church several times. But that becomes a process, and I'm not going to go around it 7 times, although I did get my wish. I was here very, very briefly 2 nights ago, and I was wondering if I went around it 7 times just to wish that I had an empty space where no one was walking around it 7 times so I could get a good picture. Would it work? And apparently it did. So I'm going to pause this so I can take some good pictures. Although, to be honest, I think I'm going to cut it off now. We've been going for 25 minutes. I go for far too long. So welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Karnak Temple. This was the heart of religion in Egypt. It was the site of the sort of church versus state with Akhenaten and the Amarna period. This is everything when it came to religion in Egypt. It's the Avenue of the Sphinxes, starts here, and the gods would be processed all the way down to Luxor Temple, where they would have their festival, and then brought back here. This is where every king, every pharaoh, every ruler made their imprint on the history of religion in Egypt. So it's a massive wonder, and it's a great thing. So with that, and at almost 26 minutes now, I will catch you all later.